Okay. Um, let's see here. Here's the agenda for today. We have some announcements from our project lead, Willie, and fascinating use cases. Northwestern Mutual, Joshua is going to share that with us. Antoni is going to tell us about a use case at VMware. And Peter is going to talk about a new feature linking job runs to data sets. But before we dig in, why don't we go from left to right? And I'll just ask you to share your name, your organization, and what brings you to today's meeting, if you don't mind. And let's see here. On the top left of my screen is Minkyu.
Hello, my name is Minkyu. I am a software developer at Astronomer, and I'm also a contributor to Marquez, and happy to see you all here.
My name is Michael Robinson. I'm a developer relations engineer, also at Astronomer, and I coordinate these meetings and contribute to Marquez. Joshua.
Hey, I'm Joshua Wankowski. I'm an associate data engineer at Northwestern Mutual. You'll hear about me more in a bit, but I deal with a lot of open lineage and Marquez work in my daily development.
And Willie.
Hello, everyone. I'm Willie. I'm the co-creator of Marquez. I'm a software engineer at Astronomer and a committer to Open Lineage.
And Naga. And please correct my pronunciation. I apologize if I get your name wrong.
Oh, no, you're right. Thanks. Hey, I'm from Oracle, and we just started using Marquez for our Open Lineage, project. So basically, we have a data flow OCI with data flow, which is Spark as a service, and we are planning to integrate Marquez into that to showcase the users what's the data lineage. Yeah, thank you guys. Thanks for the awesome product.
Thank you. Antoni.
Hi, I'm a software engineer at VMware, and I'm leading technically the open source project called Versatile Data Kit. And today I'll show how we can integrate with Open Lineage and how we use it in Marquez.
Thank you. Peter.
Hey, I'm Peter. I'm a software engineer at Astronomer. I'm a contributor to Marquez.
John.
Hey, I'm John. I'm a community support engineer here at Astronomer, and I've been working with Marquez and Open Lineage for a little while now.
Thanks. Ajita, sorry.
Hi, I'm Agita, actually, and I'm from VMware as well. I'm actually from Tony's project, the same Versatile Data Kit. I'm a community manager there.
Thank you. Sam?
Hey, I'm a software engineer at Astronomer. I started pretty recently, and I work with Willie and Minkyu and Peter. So just listening in today as I'm starting to learn more about Marquez and work with them. So yeah, nice to meet you guys.
Thanks. And Daco.
Hi, my name is Daco, and I'm also from VMware. I'm a software engineer turned manager in the data analytics team, and our team also works on Versatile Data Kit, which Antoni is going to show us in a few minutes. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, why don't I share the slide deck again, and Willie can give us the announcement. Sorry about that. Here we go, Willie.
Okay. Oh, I think. All right, great. Yeah. So there's a few things that we wanted to announce. One in particular. So we've been we've been talking with Astronomer, or on the Astronomer side, we wanted to make swag available. So if you're using Open Lineage or if you're using Marquez, please click on this link. And I think just a few questions to get the stickers out. But if you want to be cool and rock some Marquez and Open Lineage gear on your laptop, please check that out. One exciting thing is that the the Airflow Summit is happening now. So I gave a talk on backfilling Airflow DAGs with Marquez yesterday, but we have Michael Collado who will be speaking on Lineage with Spark. That's happening at 7 p.m. Pacific time today. It's a really exciting talk. Mike has been really critical in getting the Spark Open Lineage integration running and in a really good stable state. And I highly recommend checking out his talk. And speaking of talks, I will be giving a talk at the Open Source Summit in Austin, Texas. So if you want to come say hi and talk about Lineage or just anything in general, I would love to have you join. And it's based off the Linux Foundation. So one of the open source projects that has been adopted is Marquez, and we're looking to promote that to a top level project. So there's a few things that we need to do to get there. And one is just talking more about the project and get people excited. So there's a link there that you could register. And if you're in person, like I said, we'd love to chat. So yeah.
Thanks. And next up, we have Joshua, who's going to share a use case with us. And I'll let you, I remember you have slides, so let me stop sharing. There you go.
Yep, yeah, I have slides. Here, let me pull them up. Awesome. Can you see? All good, sweet. So I'm Joshua Wankowski. I'm going to be talking a little bit about Northwestern Mutual's use case. I kind of wanted to bring kind of a 9,000-foot view of why we're using Marquez and Open Lineage. And so that's why I kind of titled this bit, Marquez plus Open Lineage equals the future, which is really how we see it at Northwestern Mutual, where we're leveraging the open source community to map our data set usage. Presented by me, oh my gosh. So a little bit about me first. I'm kind of a fresh graduate. I literally am a year out of college this week. So it's pretty interesting. Software engineering grad from the Milwaukee School of Engineering. I'm an associate data engineer working on Northwestern Mutual's general data platform. And previously to that, I had a 2+ year internship in web development with a lot of user experience or UX stuff. So I kind of this like weird mixture combination of stuff, as well as while in school, I worked on multiple data science projects and research projects. So I have that kind of whole data science aspect I bring. So that's a little bit about me. The second thing I want to kind of introduce here is some of our key points. So I'll touch on each of these a little more in detail, but basically at Northwestern Mutual, we believe that Open Lineage is a solid way to really track our data usage. The second one is that we see Marquez as a window into our collective data set usage. So just as the same way as in a physical window, you're peering into kind of the outside landscape, we use Marquez as a window to really peer into our overall data set usage and what's going on in a quite literal visual sense. And the third is that we see Marquez as a future, as a critical tool of data ops. So I'll talk about this a little more at the end, but personally, I especially believe that Marquez has a very special future here as a critical tool of kind of data operations and data like kind of SRE teams into the future. So a brief starting point for us on kind of NM's journey in data is what is Northwestern Mutual? For all of you that haven't seen a Northwestern Mutual ad or like live under a rock, Northwestern Mutual is a massive life insurance company, but we also do a ton of investment management as well. So it's an increasingly large part of our business as this investment management end as well. So basically what this leads to is a very large company with a long history, 150+ year history, with many, 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 many customer touch points, like in a crazy amount. And so from investment management to underwriting, the sheer amount of data that is going around in the company is just freaking massive. And so because of this, Northwestern Mutual has a massive amount of stored data and a lot of data users. So not only do we have that stored data, but we really need that data platform because we have a lot of data users, a lot of users of our data throughout the company. So let's kind of talk into Open Lineage. I'm more onto the Open Lineage end of things. And that's kind of where I spend more of my development time. So I kind of want to start talking about here first. So why do we use it? First, we see both Marquez and Open Lineage as kind of industry standards moving forward. So we see these as industry standards for tracking data set usage, which is great for us because it limits the amount of random internal standards that we have. And really, we're working with a ton of data services, a ton of data solutions, right? So we really would prefer that, right? That's kind of our whole thing is we want just this one data standard that then we can port over and have. So the second bit is that it tracks how data sets are used. This is a newer concept to us, but tracking how data sets are used from that initial consumption all the way until the end usage of it is a very large thing. I'll touch about this more in a bit, but I kind of see this as a big win. The third thing here is recording data product usage over time. History and awareness are massive wins. And these are kind of the big reasons we use Open Lineage paired with Marquez is because we have that greater heightened awareness of what's going on, as well as a recorded history of what has happened with our data set usage. In addition, there's an extra bonus that I don't really ever hear talked about, but it's really important to us, which is improved security. And this is through the unique tracking of data, users plus data. We can just better track overall how the data that's used and like in who, what, how our users are actually using that data. And that's big for us because our kind of big thing is we need knowledge of at all times for all data sets of how users are using that data. And that's super important to us, but also helps us compare to our security frameworks, how like, are the correct people accessing the correct data? So it helps us kind of double check our work. So kind of switching gears into Marquez more directly, we see visualization as a massive tool to us, right? The big question, especially in the business world, in a business context, is build a report. How do you do it? And then more importantly, how do you model such a complex data system? And I think this is where Marquez really comes in. Marquez provides us with this visual data model. It can be used to visually track in real time a data set. Massive wins for us. There's no like Power BI reports or random kind of reports that are generated anymore. You can just go straight into Marquez and see everything that's going on. And that visual aspect is key because we're really concerned about data processing status and that success and failure status because we want to know as soon as possible what those are. Our huge thing with our data platform is allowing users, data users throughout the enterprise to do more work on their own. So have less data engineering input or less data engineering support. We're really trying to work passively alongside them to accomplish their goals. And tools like Marquez help us then do that passively, right? To see that processing status and that success failure status alongside them. So this is kind of a simple visual of everything that kind of the power, the real strength of Marquez plus Open Lineage. This whole data platform stack is captured within Marquez and Open Lineage. The ingestion, the initial data, where it's coming from, where to, the service used to ingest. All these are kind of just little key things to know, right? Processing, that data set changes, the updates made, the normalization techniques used, massive things to know and record. Transformation, the data pipeline steps of actual data pipelines, whatever they may be. And then the data services. We have plenty of services that utilize our data, that make changes to it, or that operate on it for different things. We want to know and record all that in real time. Big wins for us. And then that end usage of where that service is, the service the data is going to, and the data itself that's sent and used. Massive things to know, and kind of a big win for us overall. So this is kind of where I take my Northwestern Mutual hat off, and I kind of provide my personal take on things. So personally, I really see Marquez as the operations map for data processing. This is how I kind of see it in my head, and better understand it. But just like we have a network operations center, I always ask myself the question of, will we have a data operations center in the future, right? It kind of makes sense. I have a lot of data transactions, a lot of data services, just like a lot of network transactions, a lot of network services that are used across. So in the same way, I literally, quite literally, was in a NOC for like 2 years of my life. There's always that the network map on the screen, right? It's a massive projector in the middle of this room, right, that everyone's huddled around. What is that for data? And that's where I see Marquez as a kind of a super big win, because not only is it that map that's showing you, but then it can give you history that has details, everything about it. So it adds even greater capacity to what you can do. And that's kind of what I want to touch on, is that visual language is important. That quickly and easily showing data operations is kind of is the real key strength of all of this. And just like NOCs are super important for large companies, I think Marquez is as well. This is really the future of data. I have a very strong belief that Marquez, Open Lineage, this kind of data lineage tracking ways is very needed for large companies to see that the data that they have. And for a company like Northwestern Mutual, it helps us keep track of everything overall, right? And it kind of keeps track of that big picture of what's going on throughout the enterprise, as well as kind of individual things that are happening. So that's kind of where I'm going to end it. Thank you. I'll also take any questions if you have it. So thanks.
Hey,
Oh, go ahead.
sorry, can I? Thank you.
Yep.
Hey, Joshua, thanks. Great presentation. Yeah. Do you mind if you have any like screenshots or anything that you can share how you used Marquez in your product? For example, I hope you're using Open Spark Lineage listener, right? I think Spark listener, I believe.
Yeah, unfortunately, I couldn't. Northwestern Mutual is quite tight about what I can share, especially considering this is an active, ongoing project. So unfortunately, I don't have any specifics for you today. I definitely would love to come back in the future and see if I can bring a little more detailed information later on. But yeah, unfortunately, I don't have anything specific I can share. It's kind of why I wanted to pivot and show you kind of that 9,000 foot view, kind of the real reason why we're using this stuff. Even though I always think it's great to show you kind of the code and the architecture of things, I think it's equally important, just the way I view the world, to really show you the why we're using it.
No problem. And just on the metric side, like how many jobs or how many data sets that your product is using right now, like to showcasing to the internal developers or data analysts?
Yeah. So I can't give numbers off the top of my head, but I can tell you we incorporate Open Lineage quite heavily. So it's a lot. That's what I can tell you. It is a lot. It's a fair amount. It's up there.
No problem. Thank you.
Yeah. That's a kind of a good question. I wish I could give you a better answer, but yeah, it's definitely a lot. We incorporate Open Lineage quite heavily into our just general data platform. And again, we track everything from that ingestion point to that end usage point. So it's quite a lot. And that's why I think Marquez is super helpful in kind of showing that information in light.
No problem. Yeah. Thanks a lot.
Thanks for the question. Anyone else?
I know we have other talks, but Joshua, I just wanted to say amazing talk. And also it's very exciting to see other people super excited about the project as well. My question was kind of aligned with the previous one and sort of understanding, are you doing your own custom integrations or are you using some off-the-shelf integrations for Spark and DBT that we have? So I just wanted to know, what route did you take? And are you also processing streaming data sets, which is something we're looking to add support for Marquez and versioning as well. So it'd be great to get your insight on that.
Yep. So we're using both. That's kind of the easy answers. We're using both. We do have a lot of custom integrations around, especially that streaming. We are ramping up our data streaming into the future, but even just kind of file ingestions and stuff like that across the platform is really big to us. So and that's kind of why the interesting little teaser in all of this is that that's kind of why Open Lineage is super big for us, is keeping track of just timings for things as well. I mean, it's a better way to just straight up log things, especially in a data platform when you're working with a data set. It helps reinforce the idea that you're working on a data product and not just random data.
Cool, awesome to hear. And maybe we'll see some integrations contributed by your team, but yeah, great work.
Yep, thank you. Awesome.
Thanks. So, wow. Thanks a lot for that, Joshua. We're moving right along to our next speaker, and Antoni Ivanov, I'm going to hand off to you now. You can share your VMware use case and your slides when you're ready.
Cool, thank you. The share button. You can see my slides? Cool.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm going to talk today about Verstyle Data Kit and how we integrate it with Marquez and Open Lineage. Verstyle Data Kit is an open source project that was developed starting 4 years ago. First, it's internal project in VMware, and last year we decided to open source it to the full community. I'm gonna quickly cover what is Verstyle Data Kit, since it's a brand new project. I doubt anyone's familiar. How we do the Open Lineage Marquez integration, more importantly, why we do it, and a demo, and some suggestions for things we can improve in Marquez, which hopefully just to make you think. Cool. So Verstyle Data Kit is an open source framework that enables basically data engineers to with SQL Python knowledge to create data pipelines, basically data ops way, decentralized, code first, and it aims to abstract away data infrastructure as much as possible, so that data engineers or data practitioners actually can focus on business logic and domain instead of worrying about infrastructure. I'll show a good example with both Lineage and how we manage the databases and SQL connections. So in a bit more, basically Verstyle Data Kit is a framework where people can implement data jobs. Those data jobs can ingest data from third-party system or from internal databases in scalable way. They can write a transformation data job using either Python or SQL, and of course publishing data jobs that can use the data stored in a database and export either as reports or as a data-driven products. It consists of two things. Data SDK, which can be used independently. It provides abstractions for, you can build entire SQL jobs without any, only no SQL, or you can do some combination with the Python SQL, practice some abstractions for ingesting and transforming data, and it's extremely extensible. We'll run data lineage. I'll demonstrate how we can use extensibility. The other part, which we're not gonna really cover today, but gonna mention it, is so-called control service. So if you want to run your data job anywhere, you can install the control service. The data is can be used independently, but the control service provide runtime, so jobs can be run on schedule manually. With the control service come automatic version deployment, so your code will be automatically versioned. So that means it will be automatically reverted, roll back to previous version the errors, and the deployment is single click. It comes with some facilities for data governance and operations. Yeah, as a demo is 1,000 PowerPoint slides. I'm going to quickly show you a demo. Oops, sorry. I'll quickly show you a demo of how Versatile Data Kit works.
Versatile Data Kit supports ingestion to a variety of databases.
Can you hear the speaking?
Yes.
Support for more being added often. Versatile Data Kit allows users to deploy scheduled ingestion data jobs, which can be used to routinely collect new data from a particular endpoint and send it to a target database. First, we need to install Versatile Data Kit using the following command. Next, we need to create our data job. We do this by using the VDK create CLI command. First, we need to input a job name. We'll go with ingest data job. Then we need to input a job team. Teams allow deployed jobs to be grouped. We'll go with local for the purposes of demonstration. Next, we need to choose the directory where our job will be saved. We'll go with the default value, which is the current terminal directory. Now, let's quickly look at the data that we will be ingesting. We see that there's 4 fields in our JSON object. 2 of them are integers, 1 of them is a string, and 1 of them is a Boolean. We will expect to see this data in our database at the end. Now, let's look at our data job. Our data job consists of 2 steps plus a configuration file. Steps can be either SQL queries or Python files which implement a particular run function. We see that our first step, which is a SQL step, creates the table that we will be ingesting data into. Our second step, which is a Python step, performs the ingestion by requesting the data from the REST API and then sending it for ingestion using the API provided by Versatile Data Kit. Our configuration file serves to set the ingestion method. Note that we aren't configuring the location of a particular SQLite database file. When one isn't configured, VDK doesn't fail, but instead automatically creates a temporary database file. Now, let's run our data job. We do this using the VDK run CLI command and providing the correct directory. It seems like the data job completed successfully. However, to verify this, we'll need to query the database to check. VDK offers a way to easily run simple queries against a SQLite database by using the SQLite query command. We see that the query result matches the data that we expected to see, which means that our ingestion was successful. This concludes our demonstration. For more information on Versatile Data Kit, visit the GitHub repository linked in the description.
Yes, and you can check more examples in the Versatile Data Kit documentation. So one problem we have is at VMware is how do we track Lineage information. So what we did is we did integration with both OpenLineage and Marquez. OpenLineage is we believe a very important standard, and it's currently maybe the best standard for the only standard for lineage data. as Lineage becomes more and more important, we need a common standard so we can easily be able to integrate with different tools and different ecosystems. It's extremely important as an open source project with style data kit, since it can be installed in any organizations. So potentially it can be used with any kind of toolings, and having open style open Lineage provides that. So for style data kit, why Marquez and Lineage? We had generally their data jobs of different variety complexity. Some simple data jobs with a few SQL files, and their data jobs they can manage literally hundreds of tables and even more columns. Debugging this up to the users. We have 100 data teams that are using Versatile the data kit internally in VMware. So they have all kinds of variety use cases. So debugging those kind of complex data jobs, especially for newcomers within the data team, can be extremely complex. So the ability to visualize all the lineage and the dependencies between tables and columns becomes very important. Another use case is when something breaks. If something breaks, some data job, for example, is red or some report is not working, a lot of complaints we get is it takes a lot of time to understand where the problem is. Is it in the source system? Is it in the ingestion code? Is it in the transformation? Is it the reporting system? Having the ability to visualize the whole data path from source system through destination is, and especially if we can see where things are failing through the data path, that would greatly help troubleshooting use cases. And I have an example to suggest on how Marquez can be improved to enable troubleshooting better later. Another thing that especially big teams with those 100 tables have is they spend a lot of time maintaining jobs for tables that can potentially be no longer relevant. You can imagine that as maintenance goes over and sometimes jobs change, and now reports no longer rely on some sources that they relied before or on some tables, but data teams are afraid to touch them because they don't know that. They cannot understand the usage in a complex systems. That's where the open lineage especially comes. And because it will enable them both to visualize it or through API to do some kind of analysis on what tables are being used or data sources are being used, and potentially deprecate and remove those that are not needed. And finally, having the ability, if Marquez Marquez currently in the demo or demonstrate is used entirely locally, but if Marquez is integrated centrally for the whole organization, it will provide a way to find the right data. You can imagine, for example, you're searching for, I don't know, Salesforce. So you can see which teams are usually providing the Salesforce data from the source by looking at the Salesforce reports and seeing which are the sources of this data. VDK also tracks all the code that a data application are being developed with. So in certain sense, it provides a code catalog. So you can actually see within VMware, for example, everybody can go and see all data jobs source code, which is extremely helpful when you're trying to either find contacts or you're trying to figure out how to do something. So I think that's a very good combination between both. So how do we integrate with Marquez? In order to explain how to integrate with Marquez, I need to explain an important feature of Versatile Data Kit, which is Managed SQL. Managed SQL provides a way to intercept for any SQL query executed using the VDK framework, the SQL file or Python or the CLI commands. We then generate open lineage events, which are accepted by Marquez API. We rely on SQL parse and SQL lineage Python libraries. So this actually works by any SQL database that uses ANSI-like SQL language syntax. This interception is often used. It provides also things like validation for monitoring. You can decorate query, which is short, or has very interesting smart recovery. Though I'm not going to illustrate, I can just tell you that it has increased from 97% to 99.9 our SOIs for our database, and everything this is pluggable. I want to quickly to show an example. For example, how you can do parameterized queries. Let's say that the user enters some SQL query in SQL file and decide to parameterize the table name. And they have some configuration file where they can set a table name. When VDK is between the SQL query, it automatically will take the SQL query and replace the table in Vim's York, or it can decorate it by adding some kind of debugging information. In a very similar way is Lineage implemented. It intercepts the SQL query and parses it and sends Opera Lineage events to Marquez and using Opera Lineage standards. Again, since demo is worth 1,000 PowerPoint slides, I'm gonna do a quick demo. So all you need to do is to install Quickstar VDK. And then install the plugin called VDK Lineage. Well, I actually installed the plugin VDK Lineage, so I don't need to do it. After that, you can use Marquez. We have added Marquez server command, which provides facilities to start Marquez server. It's simply, you can start, stop, or check the status of Marquez server. It relies on Docker. So you need to also have Docker locally in order to be able to start it. It will start locally Marquez server, and it will automatically open the UI. If you want to currently want to send Lineage, we have to export this VDK Opera Lineage URL to the localhost, and then we can. Now I'm going to show a quick job. This is a data job that looks at some natural gas prices. Basically, it creates a table for natural gas price, for climate extreme index, and calculate averages per year to do some kind of simple analysis. It's a part of our example. So if I run energy, we can see the job starts. So we should be able to see it also in Marquez. We can see with run history that the job is running. As you're part of the team, you're very well aware how it works. And automatically collected our database, our 3 tables, which were created, and the merge tables that was produced by them. Next, I want to talk about is a quick suggestion for what, for example, we can do better with Marquez. One, for example, that I'll get more details is how, for example, we can visualize parent-child relationships. I know there's some work done on Marquez 1935. I'm gonna give suggestion for how Marquez UI one possible workflow. There are some other suggestions. I think it would be pretty cool if you can search by metadata. For example, to find all jobs that are late. If you have 1,000 jobs, some kind of method, if we send metadata using facets Opera Lineage, it would be cool to be able to search by them, or automate operations. For example, we notice new version of job breaks. So if you can call VDK API, has this automatic, you can revert a job through the API automatically. So it might be nice to be able to click a button and revert a job. Concrete example that I want to show you is how we can manage exact parent relationship. So if we, let's say we have this setup, we have this data job update sales, which contains 2 steps, populate account dimension and create some fact table, sales fact. And the first step execute 2 queries, and the second step execute 1 query. Currently, we can only visualize things at job level. So basically, we can do this currently, but it would be nice if we, for example, let's say that the job is red, and we want to see exactly what is broken. It's just, now this is just 3 tables. We can have job 1 or 4 tables. So if we have click show children, we can go, for example, with the next level. This now it will open step and step 2. This is obviously mockups. Let's say that our step 1 has failed, and here it's the green color, but you can imagine it's red. Maybe there's some special status bug that enables, makes it red. So we can then drill down once more and look at step 1, and we can click one more to even see the SQL query, which probably provided to some open Lineage facet. This will enable us, for example, we can spot some bug in the SQL query at this step. This will enable very quick troubleshooting because you can traverse very quickly the tree. Here this next step which shows the SQL query. And that was actually everything I want to share. I really believe that Open Lineage and Marquez is a very exciting project, and they can have a lot in terms of managing debugging, troubleshooting, data workloads for many organizations. Thank you.
Wow, thank you. Will you take questions about
Oh yeah, of course, absolutely. Sorry. Yeah, I can. Any questions are welcome.
Anthony, following up from the previous questions, how many custom integrations do y'all build with Open Lineage, and how much of that is like the out-of-the-box Spark listeners and stuff like that?
Currently, it's only where with the open source project. We are now experimenting with the Open Lineage. Internally in VMware, as I mentioned, we have 100 teams, and a lot of teams have thousands of tables. So we believe it can be quite helpful for those teams, even just the current configuration, which is using only local Marquez server for troubleshooting and development. Yeah.
Cool. Awesome presentation.
Yeah, and I just wanted to second that. It's amazing to see how much work was put in, but it's also really well thought out, and especially the command to just start Marquez and send Open Lineage events. I'm assuming you're using the Python client for Open Lineage?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
great. Awesome. Yeah. And the one really what I wanted to focus on was really the feedback. I don't think we get a lot of that. And it's really amazing to see that a lot of things that you pointed out is on our roadmap and things that we wanted to address. So the grouping of jobs, very difficult right now, right? You just have a lineage graph with all this information, but there's no contextual grouping. And that's amazing that you're following the pull request from Mike, and something that we're going to be addressing. But a few other things, feel free, open issues, and give us your thoughts on how you might want the UI to look like. And it's something you can contribute, but we could definitely add it to our roadmap to make the product more usable. But yeah, just want to say amazing work, and thanks for demoing what you've been working on.
Yeah, cool. I want to be spammy, so.
Any other questions for Antoni? Thank you so much. Again, I want to third that. Oh, we do have another speaker, and we're running short on time, so let me move on. Okay. And let's see here. Okay. Peter, take it away, please.
Sure. So this one's going to be a little bit faster than some of the other speakers, but it's just about a new feature that we've kind of added into Marquez through some community feedback. So we're, as Willie said, we're always looking for that. I'm always looking to augment and supplement the product. So I will go ahead and share. So this is just the Marquez interface that we've probably all seen. This is just with our seed data and everything in our food delivery examples. So one of the things we've added recently to our jobs is, oh no, I don't have it here. We've added this created by run. I'm not sure why it's not showing up. Oh, it's for the data sets. It will show up on the data set page. I'm sorry. It was a bit confused. So we have this created by run area now on the data set views, which will tell you kind of who was the creator of this data set, how long the duration was, and display kind of the job information. And in this case, it's the SQL that generated, this data set. So it's almost as if we just kind of look back here to this here and read this SQL here. But I think the thing that a lot of people were looking for is, they wanted to look at the previous versions and of their data set and be able to do this kind of behavior to see, what has changed for historical reasons when they're evaluating, looking at their previous data set versions here. So you can go to this page in your version history, and you can look at all your data set versions here. This will just say your field count. So, the number of attributes you have here, but you have the same thing here. So you can look at, historically, in this instance, SQL that created this particular version of this data set. So it allows you to kind of introspect historically and look at what happened previously in your pipeline in case you have an issue. Oftentimes you'll see something that's not working in your run history, and you'll want to kind of look back at it. And for example, this run failed, so maybe you want to say, okay, did the code change here, and kind of look back for historical reasons. So yeah, that's kind of the feature we've added, and I was looking for comments and use cases and real data examples of how it was helpful or not helpful and what we can change. So yeah, I think that's pretty much the demo I have to show. So thanks for bearing with me at the beginning there. All right.
Thanks a lot. Any questions for Peter?
Peter, with the Open Lineage Python client, how do you send that over? Is there a particular facet, or yeah, if that didn't make sense, I can ask differently.
How do you send what over? So yeah, I mean, all our integrations will kind of support a lot of this information. So this will be available to you, if you have source code available for jobs and data sets. So, it works with all the integrations. So,
okay, cool. So if you're already sending source code, that will now appear on the data set side.
Yep.
Cool.
All right. Thank you so much again, Peter. And next, we have open discussion. Dare I try to share the title slide again? I don't know if I should. Let's see here. Okay. Thanks for bearing with me. Open discussion. Any comments, suggestions that you want to share?
I came here primarily looking for essentially what was asked in every single presentation, not just by myself, but who's using integrations and who's using the Python client for Open Lineage, and kind of was really curious, is anybody using the Python client for Open Lineage? And so I feel like today I've discovered that people are, and so I'm no longer scared of it. Not that we were scared of it, but that's great to hear. So I guess how much, where can we see like the roadmap and stuff like that for the Open Lineage Python client? I feel like everything's geared towards integrations and Marquez, but I'm really interested in how can I just take this client and embed it into my own code?
Yeah, maybe I could answer that. So very good question. So we do have a roadmap. So we use projects in GitHub. I don't know, Michael, if you could link it in the chat, but there's not a roadmap specifically for the client or the Java client. The roadmap is really around the model changes that we want to make and facets that we want to add. But what I think we should be doing is add better docs on Open Lineage Python. I think that's where it feels a little intimidating because there's no clear docs. And you are in luck because Michael is actually giving a workshop tomorrow. I think it's full, but it's going to be recorded on the Airflow Summit and will be made available. But one thing we definitely need to do is make it very clear on how to use the Python client and what custom integrations look like, because the docs are lacking. And it's really not difficult. I think for the most part, you have models and then you have the emit method, and we should be able to document that. We have one for Java. So the Java one is a bit more fleshed out in the README, and we do publish the Java docs, but we do not have the same for the Python client, and that's just been lacking. So that feedback is huge. And I think we should be able to add at least something around posting docs and providing recommendations on defining custom integrations and how to do that in docs. And I think those are coming. So hang tight. At the same time, don't feel afraid. Post into either Open Lineage or Marquez on, hey, I'm trying to use the client and this is what I'm experiencing. And we're pretty friendly. We'll get back to you and we'll make sure that you're up and running.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Awesome. That's the answer I was looking for. I just want to make sure I wasn't losing my mind. The docs aren't where I'm looking. And that is okay.
No. Yeah.
We did end up figuring it out. We had some fun with it. We looked at the Airflow integration that kind of served as our docs to figure it out. But good to know. Not losing my mind. Glad it's on the roadmap. Second thing, I'm curious if it's on the roadmap. And I might have asked. I did ask about this last time, but I'm curious if it's resurfaced. Binary file for the Helm chart. What does that take? Is there anything that we can do from a community perspective to make that happen, or is it just a matter of packaging it and putting it on y'all's website?
That's a good question. You need access to CI. I know. I think you've mentioned it before. So it doesn't take a lot. We're moving to GitHub Actions. So there's an action that you can use or some formula that you can use and publish it. So why don't we do it? I think that's the better question. I could see if it's something that can be contributed from the open source side and have others contribute that. I think that would be great. Maybe just put the file together and the configuration, and then see if we can then trigger that on our end as contributors, because we have more permissions. I think if you do some research there and just let us know how you'd want it done, and we could work with you and try to get that out. But yeah, if you're waiting on it, we don't want to block you, and let's see if we can make that happen.
Yes, sir, and definitely not blocked. Like I mentioned last time, we just cloned y'all's repo and binary ourselves, but we do the umbrella chart thing, and so I like to have the chart.lock and the binary files and all that stuff. So no, not blocked, but I'd be happy to look into like the CI side of it. Yeah.
Yeah, if you don't mind, and I think I added it to the roadmap for our next release that we're doing. So if that's not the case, I'll double check, but I'll make sure that's added and becomes a priority for us, because you're not the only one who's asking about it. Yeah, so that's why.
Good to know. Thanks, Willie.
And I know we're almost out of time, but I wanted to make one public announcement. Recently, column level lineage has been added to Open Lineage, which is super exciting. That's been in development for quite some time and also been asked about. And we worked with Microsoft on defining what the spec looks like. So the cool thing is Marquez, sometime within the next few months or so, we're going to start adding Open Lineage, column level lineage to the API. And we're going to let the community know that that's happening, and we'll put a spec together. And we would love your feedback on the API and also how that might be displayed in the UI as well. But I know that's a pretty highly requested feature, and that's something that that's coming down the road. I'm excited, by the way. So.
Willie, can you also share about the roadmap on the multi-tenancy model, something like that?
Maintenance model?
No, multi-tenancy model. How to use Marquez?
Oh, right. So currently, what we've seen in production for some of our customers is that so there's two extremes. One is that you deploy Marquez instances per team or per sort of slice in your org, and then you route Open Lineage events to a central, so federated Marquez, which puts together the graph for you. But at that point, you need something like Kafka, and the events themselves would have to be emitted to a central Marquez instance. So that's one option, which I think maybe you asked about it, but I know someone asked, and I did not get to the design or like the recommended approach.
Yes, I was the one who asked.
That was you. Okay. But really, you for every event that you get in the Marquez instance, you then route it to Kafka and then stitch it together in a federated Marquez. So that way, only admins could view that. But we're working with a company that will help us document that a little bit more. But that's what some are doing. And really, if you're not that big and you don't need multiple Marquez deployments, what you could do is just use the namespace as a way to say, this is for my team, this is for, within your org, you have all these different subgroups, and you could add deployments there or group metadata that way. And I know we're out of time, but the only thing with that is you need access control. And that's something currently Marquez doesn't have, but it's something that is on our roadmap. But if you want complete isolation, that's some work that we'll have to do on our end.
Just a small note. Currently, we are using namespace and owner combination to filter out the namespaces belongs to the owner, and then only showing those namespaces in the UI or when we get the API. So basically, we just tweaked a little bit of on the Spark listener side and the Marquez side, both sides, to accept the owner and also to send the owner from the collection. And then we are trying to filter out the namespaces based on the owner, and then all the data sets or the jobs belongs to that namespace only shows up, or belongs to that owner only shows up. Yeah.
Oh, that's very smart. And it's one way to approach it. But I'll make sure to get, I think my view of how things can be done, but yours is not incorrect. I think there's just some work on the Marquez side to get it to the point where we have true access control on metadata and what's viewable. So.
Gotcha. And also one small thing, is there any roadmap on the themes, like the UI themes? I think I asked the same question too in the channel. I think I don't see any roadmap.
That's a Peter question. I know someone in Slack talked about it, but right now it's a dark mode.
So I've created a number of issues for us on the UI, but they're not structured in a way in terms of a roadmap and when this will be delivered at this date. We have some maintenance projects that we have to undergo. And then, I imagine we'll just be coordinating with our backend team in terms of supporting like deletes and column level lineage and kind of going in lockstep with them there, as well as kind of supplementing the grouping behavior. So I think the issues are not as fleshed out, but I think we're going to kind of try to move, synchronously as we kind of add things to the API. So we can look at orienting this more towards the roadmap, because I feel like sometimes I think the UI gets lost when we're building features for our API and adding things and such. So I think we could probably do a little bit better there.
Right.
Thanks a lot, Peter.
Yep. Yeah, thank you, everyone. We hope to see you at the next community meeting, but we are over time. And appreciate all the contributions. and the presenters today. So thanks and see you next time.
This was awesome.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.